Good seeing everybody. I appreciate everybody coming out to cover Penn State football. Just some notes. Another awesome environment, 110,830, second largest crowd in Beaver Stadium history. We won the turnover battle, the explosive play battle, the third down, not the explosive play battle, the third down battle, the sack battle. We did not win the drive start battle. I think their punter is exceptional. And we did not win the penalty battle. Didn't have a lot, but still did not win that battle. Had the same number of penalties, but we had more yards. You talk about players of the game. We went with the offensive line, the group that we consider the starters, which is Olu, Hunter, Caden, Sal, JB, Vega, and Drew. We kind of view those two guys as starters as well. Defensively, Chop Robinson, special teams, Dom DeLuca. Dom just continues to make plays and show up. He's been disruptive now 3 weeks in a row in terms of being involved in turnovers. D-Squad Players of the Week on offense, Golden, which is also his birthday. Happy birthday, Golden. London Montgomery, and then on defense, Lamont Payne and Jamel Lyons, and then on special teams, Jace Tutty, who's been really good for us. He's been a really good teammate since he's arrived here, and is bringing value and is appreciated by our coaching staff in the locker room. Some positives from the game: we won 1-0, shutout, but what we've been kind of preaching is we got better. I thought we got better last week. I thought the three biggest plays of the game was the fumble caused by a combination of Deny and Jalen. Jalen on the hit, Deny punched it out, recovered by Curtis. If you really look at that game started out the way Iowa wanted it to go. They had the ball. They were able to get at least a first down. They were able to punt us deep, play field position, pin us deep. Then we didn't do a good job in that coming out drive. Then we punt the ball back deep to them. So that turnover was huge in the game, huge, because that game started really the way Iowa wanted it to go. That's their style of game. But that was a huge play. I thought the 4th and 1 from the minus 48-yard line in the beginning of the game was the second biggest play of the game. And then the punt, the rugby-style punt that hit their guy in the head, and we got a turnover there. I thought they were the three biggest plays in the game that really got it going. Kind of an amazing stat. Audrey, please double-check this. But pretty amazing stat. After the shovel pass for the fumble that we just talked about, Penn State ran 80 of the next 96 plays in the game. There was 96 more plays in that game after the fumble, and 80 of them we ran, which is amazing. Of those 16 plays that they ran, went for negative 5 yards. I thought our preparation was excellent, and it translated to the game. We got to continue to build on that, our process individually and collectively of preparing each week. I think our D squads have been excellent. Those guys have been excellent in giving us the looks for our opponents, and I know the team really showed an appreciation for them on Sunday. We are leading the nation in time of possession, in turnover margin, in total defense, and in pass defense, so pretty cool. We're not a big stat team, but I do think the stats sometimes tell a story and kind of reinforce some things that you're doing right, and allow you to, also kind of look into some things that you need to do better. Opportunities for growth, opening drive on both offense and defense, and then just continuing to refine our collective and individual preparation. Kind of getting into Northwestern and David Braun. David is serving not only as the head coach, but also the defensive coordinator, and doing a nice job. He's got a really good reputation and a really good resume, and doing a nice job. When you talk about Mike Bajakian, who's a guy that we've known of for a long time, Actually, Coach Leonard and him worked together at Boston College, but he's been a coordinator for a long time. Coached in the NFL, is very well thought of, and is doing a nice job there. They're a no-huddle offense that really – they can run tempo, but they're more kind of the illusion of tempo, so they can see how you line up and then get to the plays they want to run. They base mainly out of 11 personnel. They want to throw the ball. I think that's where they feel like they have the best chance to be successful, and I do think Ben Bryan, their quarterback, is probably the best pure thrower that we've seen this year. I think he's a 4-time transfer, which is strange. Cincinnati, Eastern Michigan, then back to Cincinnati, and now Northwestern. Also impressed with A.J. Henning, and then obviously their wide receiver number 17, Bryce Kurtz. That game last week was really interesting to watch the coaches' tape as well as the TV copies, which I like to watch as well. I think it was 31-10 in the fourth quarter, and when you think about how Minnesota likes to play, you would never say that they would win that game based on Minnesota's style of play. But they found a way. They found a way, which was impressive to watch. Like I mentioned, David Braun is also the defensive coordinator. They're generally a 4-down, mixed coverage, quarters-based team, doing a nice job. Linebacker number 34, Xander Mueller, linebacker number 32, Bryce Gallagher, and then their Sam/safety, however you want to look at him, number 24, Rod Hurd. They're guys that kind of jump out to us. And then on special teams, Jeff Jenick, who I've known for a long time. Jeff is a respected long-term special teams coordinator, as well as was the head coach at Eastern Michigan. I'm not sure if I've told you this story or not, but if I have, I apologize. But I want to say maybe I was at James Madison at the time. This was for the Daily Collegian group that's here. You won't remember these days, but this was pre-cell phone. And I remember it was out recruiting I think in the spring. And that was a nightmare, like when you didn't have a cell phone. You didn't know it was a nightmare at the time, but now looking back at it, it was a nightmare. Didn't have a cell phone. So you'd pull over side of the road, your big recruiting book, and you'd kind of swipe through it, and you get the pay phone, drop the quarters in there, and you're trying to call the high school coach. You have to do that for every school, let them know you're coming. Well, Jeff had a cell phone. And we were kind of in the same recruiting areas, and that was like gold. So I remember I just kind of followed him for the day. I just kind of went to the same schools he did. He called the coaches, let them all know that we were coming. So I'm still appreciative of this to this day of Jeff. But Jeff's a very well thought of special teams coordinator. He's done a nice job. Was the previous head coach at Eastern Michigan. And then they got A.J. Henning, who's a transfer from Michigan, who's done a nice job in the return game for them as well. So open up to questions.
All right, we'll go to Donnie Collins and then Rich Garcella. You're on deck.
How you doing today, James?
Hey, Donnie.
I was wondering if you could assess the play of your wideouts the first 4 games. Are there areas where they've exceeded your expectations coming out of camp, and where do you see as the biggest areas of improvement there?
Yeah, I've been pleased with the group. I think we need to be more consistent as a total group. Some guys maybe more than others. I think Keandre has shown what he can do. Getting Trey back last week, although I wouldn't even say he was necessarily 100%, but he was cleared and good to go. That was big for us as well. And then we got a group of guys like we've talked about that have shown flashes at times and are doing some good things, but we need that to continue to grow. And there's, like we've talked about, I think still probably the same. We got about 5 guys that we think can play and have shown some good things in games and in practice, but we just need to be more consistent. So overall good, but we got to keep growing and getting better in that area.
Let's go to Rich Garcella, then Mike Gross. You're on deck.
Good afternoon, James. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm ready.
Rich, are you a coffee guy?
I'm a big coffee guy.
Black or like ice cream sundae?
Black.
I'm an ice
A
cream.
little bit of cream.
Yeah, I'm an ice cream sundae guy, but I've been doing this fasting. I drink it black, and just like you shake your head about the ice cream sundae, I shake my head about the black. I hate the black. It's like punishment. That's what I got right now. It's like
Love black
punishment.
coffee. If
Really?
it's good coffee.
You always
Yeah.
loved it, or you've grown to love it?
As I've matured, I've grown to love it.
You calling me immature?
No, I'm calling myself mature instead of another adjective.
Gotcha.
Older.
Gotcha.
Okay. Hey, when you have a team this deep and the talent margin between the first and second teams can be so thin, how do you handle unhappy players that might come with it? And does the competition at each position, does that prevent complacency?
Well, a couple things. I think the running back position is a good example of kind of what we're talking about. You know, we really look at probably our two deep as starters. And we've really tried to kind of sell everybody on the fact that we are sharing the reps, which is going to help us in the fourth quarter. Sharing the reps, which is going to help us in a long season, hopefully a very long season. You look at us, I think defensively, I think to this point of the year, I think we have 86 less reps than we had last year at this same point of the season on the defensive side of the ball. And then obviously we've had some games where we've been able to get guys out. So I think guys have just embraced and understood. Oh, and then also, probably 6 less plays a game on each side of the ball. So I think guys have just kind of really embraced of, the idea of what do we got to do to win, number one. And then number two, what do we got to do to keep developing our roster, continue to stay deep, and understand that ultimately it's about what you do with the reps you get. And we've been pretty good there, to be honest with you, in terms of culture and in terms of buy-in to that. I mean, obviously everybody would like a few more catches, everybody would like a few more carries, but I think ultimately, people are pleased and happy with how they're being used and how they're being coached and how they're being developed. And then Sunday helps, because I think you guys know, even guys that play in the game, we do a developmental scrimmage on Sundays, and that's been helpful. And I think our 3s and 4s, even guys that play, the younger players, I think are really much more bought into that this year than in the past. I think we've made them more competitive. I think they've been a little bit more fun. It's pretty cool. The veterans all stay out there and they're cheering them on. It's been really good energy. So I think that helps too. It's not perfect, but for the most part, I think it's been good.
Let's go to Mike Gross.
Was there another question? Did I answer your whole?
The second part of my question was: does the competition prevent complacency?
Yeah, I think competition always helps. It helps solve a lot of issues. I think the other thing is, I think when the backup goes in and the starter respects the backup, I think that helps. Same where if you're the backup and you respect the starter, I think those things help. That the locker room usually knows. But yeah, I think that competition in practice, good on good. One of the really cool things that I thought happened on Saturday is after Keandre scored his touchdown on the fade ball, which I thought was a really big-time play, the first guy to meet him coming off the sideline was Kalen King. And Kalen and Keandre's battles at practice are like legendary. And I think that was kind of a really good example and kind of a tip the hat of Kalen seeing Keandre be successful, and Keandre saying, well, you're a big part of that success because of how we go against each other every single day at practice. So I thought that was a really cool moment for our players on the sideline to see, and for those two guys to be so supportive of each other, because it's pretty heated at practice sometimes.
Let's go to Mike Gross and then Ben Jones. You're on deck.
James, how are you?
Hey, Mike, black or sweetener and cream?
Sweetener and cream. Yeah, I'm not a coffee purist. I'm a coffee guy, but not a purist.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I wish I was with you.
Caramel and that kind of stuff, yeah.
I'm not going that far, but yeah. But basically an ice cream sundae. As much artificial sweetener and cream as possible. Hunter is a big coffee drinker too, and he used to make fun of me because it was like, he's like, is that really coffee or is it just cream?
Yeah, I have no qualms.
You're comfortable with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, me too.
Last week, the Ohio State AD testified to Congress that it has become common for recruits to ask for money in exchange for visiting your campus, and the number he gave was $5,000. So the question is, have you had to deal with that? And if so, how have you dealt with it? And if you haven't had to deal with it, how do you think you would deal with it if it came up?
As you could probably imagine, it's kind of like we had the discussion maybe it was a year ago when something came out from that school as well, and they talked about a number, and you guys wanted to know if my number was similar, and I said, well, why would my number not be similar? People seem shocked by that. Yeah, I mean, as you can imagine, the schools that you're mentioning, we're all dealing with the same challenges and issues. We all are. So, yeah, sometimes I think things are said publicly that maybe you guys weren't aware of before. But, yeah, we're all dealing with the same challenges and issues because most of us are all recruiting the same guys. And that's about as far as I'll get into that and then talk about Northwestern.
Let's go to Ben Jones and then Johnny McGonigal.
Hey, James, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm a black coffee guy.
You are. You beat me to the punch. You just said I'm gonna steal his thunder.
Yeah, I could tell we were having a Thanksgiving. What's your favorite?
Yeah.
What's your favorite applesauce thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't. I would miss my morning meetings if I had that much artificial sweetener.
Always black coffee?
For the most part, I drink coffee enough that I like it, but not so much that I need it. So.
Yeah, I don't need it. I don't drink it on vacation. We don't have a coffee maker at the house, so it's only at work.
Fair enough. Well, good news is you don't spend a lot of time at work.
Yeah, fair. Fair. But did you always drink it black, or is that transitioned?
I always drank it black because I didn't know what else to do with it. So I was like, I guess this is how it's going to happen.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So this year, you've had 12 touchdown drives that have lasted 4 or more minutes. Last year, you had 13 of those. I think we talk about explosive plays and all of the excitement that you're maybe trying to find in the offense. But you have found a lot of success sitting on the ball, tenderizing people, taking what the defense gives you, and you're scoring 30 points or more a game. How much are we missing the plot on this is who you are versus you're just not where you want to be? Obviously, you're not going to turn down explosive plays if they're there, but it also stands to reason that as you reach the halfway point of the season, your offensive identity isn't just going to change overnight. Yeah.
So first of all, I think that's a good question, and I also think it's good information. It's interesting. One of the things that's really cool is, in our team meetings, Mike gets up and talks, and Manny gets up and talks, and Stacy gets up and talks, because when we're talking about football and we're teaching situational football or talking about how we played, one of the things that's been important is Mike talking about how the defense helps our offense, and Manny talks about how the offense helps our defense. So that's been brought up about, like Manny talked about, like they were on the field, and then the next time they got on the field, the score change and the clock change, and how that's been really helpful and impactful. And that goes back to the 86 less reps we've had on the defensive side of the ball at the same point of the schedule last year. So what I would say to your question too, though, is to me, I'm always looking for balance. We're always looking for balance. And right now, I think we have shown the ability to run to win, and we've shown the ability to pass to win. I think we need to be able to show that we can grind it out to win, which we have. But I also think we need to show that we can be explosive to win as well. We've done that at times, but probably not as much as we've grinded it out. But I would also say that also plays a little bit to how people were playing us. If you look at Iowa last week, they were playing soft on the perimeter and were not going to give up the big play. They were not going to let us throw it over their head. You can even go back and watch your tape. A lot of times if people are playing soft on the edge, you may not feel like you can run by them, but you may be able to move you may be able to run a double move, a stutter, to get them to bite from off coverage and then be able to run by. We tried to run a stutter, we weren't able to run by them either. They didn't bite. So I think some of it is how people are defending us in terms of trying to stop our two running backs by overloading the box, but then also playing soft, either like Illinois with a safety at 25 yards deep in the middle of the field in their way of stopping the explosive play, or with soft corners. So for me, back to the initial statement I said about balance, we got to be able to show that we can grind it out or be explosive, run the ball to win, pass the ball to win, and we need to continue to grow and develop in the explosive play area. I will tell you this. In the locker room at halftime, that was a point that I made to the offense, is do not get bored. And when I say the offense, the offensive coaches, do not get bored with grinding this game out, because it is working for us in a style that is going to allow us to beat this Iowa football team. The 4th and 1 conversions, the sequencing of how we're calling the plays, knowing when we're going to go for it on 4th down, like grind it out. It wasn't like we went at halftime and said we need to be more explosive in this game. No, let's not get bored with how it's going. And what was interesting is if you look at our yards per carry in the first half, and then look our yards per carry in the third quarter, and then look at our yards per carry in the fourth quarter, we just kind of kept chipping away at them, and we didn't average a great yards per carry in the first half, but in the third quarter and the fourth quarter, it was excellent. So part of it is kind of sometimes just the style of how you have to play to win the game and to control the game, if that makes sense.
We'll go to Johnny McGonigal.
Yeah, James. I know you guys are a Dunkin' school, so a suggestion: the cold brew with sweet cold foam, with the cold foam on top, is really good.
What is the calories in that?
It's only like 80 calories.
Oh, yeah.
As long as you don't get extra creamer or sugar with it, you don't really need it.
Right, but I'm doing this fasting, so it's got to be 0 calories. Like
so
I don't.
It's 80. It's 80 more than 0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not going to do it. So I'm just going to continue to punish myself with this awful black coffee.
Fair enough.
But that's maybe an afternoon treat. I like it.
There you go.
Nice.
Bo Prabula has gotten in, quite a bit so far.
Cold brew with sweet cream, you said.
It's cold. Yeah, it's cold brew with, I think it's called like the cold foam, the sweet cold foam.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, Bo Prabula has gotten in quite a bit so far this season. I think he's up to like 60, 70 snaps on offense. What have you seen out of him and how he's handled himself when he's getting in to games?
Yeah, so we've been very intentional, very much like we were last year with Drew in making sure we're going to get Bo these reps. Also, I don't know if you've noticed, sometimes we're putting him in a series before we've really made a change, allowing him to be in with the majority of the ones still, because we think that's important. And then after that series, then make some more changes. We'd like to get him involved more in a situation where he can actually run our offense, because I think right now he's being used primarily as a runner, but we feel like we can run the whole offense with him. But a lot of that is because of its borderline 4-minute offense as well, and it's something that he also does well, so kind of allows us to do both. Gain a hat in the run game, 4-minute, and play to one of his strengths. But I do think it's important that we continue to grow those other elements. He's getting it in practice a lot, obviously, but I think it's been really good. But we want to continue to develop that. And then there's obviously a place for getting him in, situationally throughout the game as well. Maybe in the red zone, or maybe in third down, or maybe as a change up. We had a play we were going to run yesterday, and it was during a timeout, and I kind of vetoed it at the last minute. But he's got a bigger package than what you've seen to this point. But I've been pleased with him. He's another guy that prepares really well, kind of emotionally steady Eddie. Doing a really good job of protecting the ball. We got to continue to do that. But we're pleased with him. And I know, talking to our defensive coaches and talking to some of our analysts, we feel like he's a weapon that defensive coordinators and head coaches are spending time on. Okay, yeah, he's just being used right now at the end of the game, but you've seen enough of him that everybody knows at some point you're going to have to be prepared for him during regular time. So I think it's been good, and he's been good.
All right, for those in the room that have a question, please raise your hand. We'll bring a mic to you. We'll start with Mark.
Hey, James, how are you today?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great. With respect to special teams,
Nope.
It skipped a generation with me. My mom drank coffee. My daughter drinks coffee. I don't drink coffee.
At all?
Not at all.
Never have?
Nope.
Impressive. Do you drink tea?
If I'm not feeling well, maybe. But no, I'm not like
Red Bull?
I'm not like a hot beverage person.
Red Bull?
No comment on what I drink. Yeah, no comment on.
Yeah, love that.
In all seriousness, you had a lot of question marks with your special teams coming into the season. Through 4 games, how would you assess the overall performance of those groups? Thanks.
Yeah, I think, like we've talked about in a lot of other areas, I think there's been flashes of really good things. I think our units are playing well and are playing fast and are playing aggressive and hard. I think we just need to be a little bit more consistent at the specialist positions in terms of our field goal percentage. I also would say we have gone for it on 4th down as a philosophy coming into the season that could have skewed those numbers with some chip shot field goals that would have helped. Punting, I think you really have to talk about drive start with that, because although we're not, again, crushing the ball, it's difficult for people to get returns on us. I think our kickoffs that's been something I think has been pretty consistent in terms of our philosophy of kicking it out and covering down. So I think good, but we need to take the next step from a consistency standpoint.
In the back, Andrew.
Hey, Coach. I'm like you, cream, sugar, all the nonsense.
Say it again.
I'm like you, cream and sugar, all the nonsense. It's the only way to drink it. Cold brew also better. My question's about turnovers.
Nice.
I know you track shoulda, coulda been turnovers as much as you do real turnovers. When you look back through your numbers...
And not just track them, we show it in the team meeting as well.
When you look back through at 0 turnovers through 4 games, is it as impressive when you look at the shoulda, coulda as it is to us when we see the actuals?
Yeah, I think so. I guess for me, I think what happens a lot of times because it's so exciting is I think people spend a lot of time on the turnovers, but just as exciting to me is the lack of turnovers and how we're respecting the football and essentially the program by doing that. So we got to continue to preach that. We got to continue to not get bored with that, with those fundamentals and that period that we do every single day. But I think it's been really good. And I think rather than just brushing over the times where we got away with a poor decision or we got away with a lack of ball security, that's where I think you have problems if after wins you don't address the problems. So same as turnovers. Just because we didn't turn it over doesn't mean there wasn't some coaching and teaching that needs to come from it. So that's how we've been addressing it, and so far so good, but we need to keep it up.
Over here, Mike.
Does this stat make sense, or maybe
Mike,
you can explain it?
There's a theme going on here.
Peppermint tea.
Peppermint tea. So I need more. I don't understand that. Like,
it's medicinal.
Okay.
I think I'm the oldest one here.
Is there sweetener with it or just the peppermint tea?
Just the tea.
Is that a little bit, because I struggle with, is that a little bit like the seltzer? What I mean by that is like you got this seltzer that's like it's berry seltzer or whatever seltzer, and it's got a really strong smell. So you get excited that it's going to taste like that, but then it doesn't. So is the peppermint more like the smell, or does it have a strong peppermint taste?
Well, it's peppermint, so it tastes like peppermint.
Right, but like I associate peppermint with the sugar that usually comes with peppermint.
It still smells like peppermint, but it's good for the system.
Yeah, I know it smells like peppermint. What I'm saying is I associate the sweetener with peppermint. There's no sweetener.
No, it's not sweetener.
Okay, sorry.
No, but I'm a stat guy, and you are, especially when they're good stats. Drew's 4.5 per attempt, combined with Nick's down over 5 yards per rushing attempt in the first 4 games compared to last year. What does that tell us or tell you?
So a couple things. I'm not a good stat guy. I'm a guy that I think the stats that are in the extremes are what you have to be aware and concerned of. So the really good stats, they tell a story. The really bad stats, they tell a story. So for me, with what you're talking about, I mean, the terms of yards per carry, I don't know if I could have addressed that more. I've been asked that question like 1,000.
You covered that about the scheme. I think that answers that.
Right, but you just asked it.
Yeah, well, I'm asking you the two things together. What do they tell us?
I guess what I'm saying is I'll get to the other part, but the terms of the yards per carry, we've talked about that, in my opinion, a ton. But in terms of Drew, I think a couple things. I think it goes hand in hand with protecting the football. I think it goes hand in hand with completion percentage. And I think it goes hand in hand that we need to be more explosive. I think it's all those things. We gotta do a better job of being more explosive when the opportunities present themselves. But I also think it tells a story of times where we have called shots and people are playing soft, and he's not holding on to the ball, because it also goes hand in hand with sacks. He's not holding on to the ball waiting for a route to come open. He's working through his progression. He's taking a check down. So that reduces sacks. That keeps us on schedule. That increases completion percentage. And those things equate to wins. Also, it helps with turnovers, because a lot of times the turnovers are pressures because the quarterback's holding the ball too long. So I think it's all those things. But at the end of the day, we also have to be more explosive. So it's just a fine line. It's a fine line. We still want to throw for a high completion percentage. We still want to make sure we're protecting the football. We still want to reduce the sacks because we don't want to take negative yardage plays that get us off schedule. But when the opportunities come for a big play, we got to hit it. The last thing I'll say on it is also the ability to get the ball to people on the perimeter with a cushion, and then our ability to make people miss, because the explosive plays always don't have to be the ball that's spiraling in the air for 40 yards. It can be a 5-yard completion or a 12-yard completion where you make somebody miss and go 80. Very different than your first part of your question with a running back, where a running back usually is going to have to break multiple tackles or make multiple people miss to get that explosive play. So we need to be a little bit better with our yak as well.
Over here on the left, Jared.
Hey, Coach Franklin.
Hey, Jared.
I'm a big tea guy, by the way. No coffee.
I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna hold on that. You're a tea guy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Lots of sugar too.
Love it.
Earlier, you said that as a team, you guys need to refine collective and individual preparation. Going into game day this week, can you expand a little bit more on what that means?
Yeah, so it's our team's process of Sunday through Friday, how consistently we practice. I think it's also how we approach, the players approach their Monday film sessions on their own. It's how the guys handle taking care of their body and coming in with preventive, maintenance in terms of nutrition, hydration, flexibility. Say you're a guy that's got a history of ankle issues. Are you coming in and doing the preventative, strengthening and flexibility work, whatever it may be, watching film, studying your opponent, going through the game plan. It's all those things that, we do collectively as a team in how we practice and stacking days, Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, leaving the practice field feeling great, Friday, leaving the practice field feeling great, give us the best chance to be successful on Saturday because of consistency, right? I think that's the key, whether it's football or probably any other industry, is who can do it on a consistent basis. And those things are collectively about our team and how we go about our business, and those things are individually. I think, there's examples. I think, why has Dom DeLuca been so successful? I think he's an example of a guy that is super consistent with his approach. I remember back to John Reed, super mature guy who was very consistent. John Sutherland, guy that was super consistent with his approach. And I think, those guys leave a legacy, right? John Reed learned from somebody. Sutherland maybe learned from John Reed. And our guys now learn from Sutherland, and so on and so forth, to kind of pass it down. I think Drew learned from Sean, and so on and so forth. So that individual and collective process of preparation, I think has been good, but we got to continue building on it. We got to sustain it. It's one thing to do it for 3 weeks or 4 weeks. Can you do it, week after week, day after day for the entire season? When you play well and when you don't play well, do you still put in the same level of approach? And actually, do you get better each week? Are you, self-reflective? Are you self-aware, where you kind of look at yourself and say, okay, this is what I did last week, and maybe I wasn't as good in this area. What am I going to do differently this week? We talk a lot this year about being intentional. Are you intentional about your plan and areas where you can improve and where we can improve?
Audrey.
James.
Again, as always, I appreciate you guys joining us today. This week for us, we have our annual mental health awareness game. And, I've been one of those guys that have always tried to use the game of football to make a difference in the players' lives that come underneath us. And others doing this each year is really special to me because of obviously my son Miko and my family. So we're excited about being able to bring awareness to mental health with the game this week. Michigan State obviously was proud of the fast start. It was great to see us kind of get back to that standard. The defense came up big with the turnovers. Offensively, we capitalized on them to give us a great lead. Our defense has done a really good job the last couple of games of creating turnovers. And as I've said before, the winning formula is big plays, us creating them, defense minimizing them, taking care of the football on offense, defense creating turnovers, and then obviously having the ability to play great situational football. And I thought we did all three of those things in the Michigan State game. I didn't like how we finished, but that's something that we will continue to work on, up to still a little bit of a quote. I saw Jalen Hurts say this, and as I looked at this week, winning is hard in this league, and for us to get road wins, and I want us to make sure we enjoy and celebrate them, but we also have a standard, and to me that's where the sweet formula of taking care of winning while also playing to our standard, and for me, when I come back off the field, I kind of get disappointed in myself because I feel like we lost the game after we've done a really good job the first three, and it's because of the standard. And I think our players really have embraced that part of it, that it's not just about winning, but it's also playing to a standard. And so what we'd like to do as we get into the Indiana week is be able to play winning football while also doing it to a standard. And I think that's the part when I talk about this team is a little different. I think they share that same sentiment. When you turn the page to Indiana, they're led by a really strong defense. I think their linebacking core is probably one of the better linebacking cores that we've faced thus far. 44 is one of those guys that, he makes a lot of plays for those guys. They've got some transfers over there. Their D coordinator, Chad Wilt, we know a lot about. He was a D-line coach here in one of my earlier stints here. And they're top 5 in the Big Ten in pass defense, interceptions, and then third down stops. And so really do a good job on that side of the ball. On the offensive side, obviously, Walt Bell, they've got a tremendous playmaker at number 12 who they try to find ways to get him touches. The quarterback, a transfer from Tennessee, throws the deep ball as well as we'll see a deep ball. So we've got to do a great job this week of preparing our team for the ball being thrown vertically. If I were to say what our objectives were for our defense this week is to find a way to minimize number 12's impact on the game, number one. Number two, obviously, is to be able to stop the run. And they're very diverse in their offensive systems. They have the ability to spread you out, play with tempo. They even have elements of triple option that they use where number 12 becomes the extra, run guy. So playing really disciplined fundamentally in terms of when they do get you into option football is going to be really important. And then also really important for us to be really sound in those option responsibilities when they do offer that. We played one-score games against them each of the last few years. This has always been a tough game for us. You think about last year's matchup where Talia left the game injured. We were down, and Billy Edwards was able to come in and lead us to victory. Ever since I've been in this league in 2014, I was here when we joined this league. This has always been one of those games that's been a tough game for the Terps, and I expect it to be the same here this week, as Tom Allen is one of the better coaches, in my opinion, in this league. It's the Big Ten home opener, so we'll need to be ready to take their best shots. As I've always said, I'm really proud of the way our student section has continued to turn out for these first opportunities here at home. We're hoping to have the ability to have that same type of environment and maybe add to it with some of our alums that are here in the D.C. metro area to come out and support this team as we continue to work to take the next step. It'll be great to be back here at the Shell. Our game captains, Eric Harris, Ruben Hippolyte, and Riyadh Wilmot, and as well as not just our mental health awareness game, but it's also family weekend. So we're excited to have families back here to support Terp football family. With that, I'll open it up to questions.
Good afternoon, Mike.
Dave, what's up?
Not much. The takeaways, you guys had 5 against Michigan State this past Saturday, I think 11 in the last 3 games. The ball hawk Donnell Brown making, play after play. Does that get to a point where it feels contagious? And how do you, if you could expand on how you guys have cultivated that, takeaway mentality this fall?
Yeah, it's funny because I shared this with the team. I went to church Sunday, and part of the message was about mindset and what's going on in your brain, and how when you think positive things more than you think negative things, you move to and become what you focus on. And, turnovers are kind of like that. Once you get a couple, they kind of come in bunches, and we've been a team that has not turned the ball, taken the ball away. The last couple of years, I remember coming in always talking about we got to find ways to get our hands on more balls, and the last couple of weeks it's like the floodgates have opened, and our guys are hungry for it on that side of the ball. It's definitely been a catalyst in how we've been able to overcome slow starts, and then last week helping with our fast starts. So it's a much needed thing for us on the defensive side. I'm hoping it is contagious because, you look and see to have the amount we've had the last 2 weeks, we'd love to continue that trend because, again, big plays, turnovers, and then being able to run and stop the run are critical in terms of being able to win ball games.
Hey, Michael, how much of a believer are you in momentum? Because it feels like you have a lot of it with 31 points in the first 4 games ever, and then winning by 18 at least for the first time in more than 100 years.
Yeah, momentum is critical. It's real, and it has the ability to affect you in both ways, winning and losing. And so I don't mind the ride of the momentum wave we have going. Like I told our team, it's going to be really important to understand that momentum doesn't just happen. It's created by what you do. Every week we've got to pay a price to go out and play successfully on Saturday, and I think our players have really, that part of our culture and that part of our standard, they've really embraced the work that has to be done to be able to have the success we have, and momentum's a big part of it, and we need to continue to do the things that we've done to capture it.
Hey, Coach.
What's up, Varun?
You talk about the standard. Which games this year do you feel like your team has hit the standard in?
What games have we?
Yes.
We haven't played the perfect game. The perfect game is winning and meeting our standard, and we haven't had any of those yet.
And for you, when you're walking off the field, you kind of talked about it a little bit. What's that feeling like when you guys have won, but you don't hit the standard? What's that emotion like for you?
Unfortunately for me, I tend to dwell on what we didn't do. And that's not necessarily, I think, best for our team. And that's where I struggle because my job is to continue to push. But there's a fine line between pushing and then also celebrating the victories that we have right at that moment. And that's in perfect where I'd like to get rid of press conferences after. I'd like to get the camera out of the locker room because it takes away from, when I look at it, I feel like crap because here we just won and all I'm talking about is we didn't meet the standard. We didn't do this. We didn't do that. And you know what? This generation of players, I don't know if they're motivated that way. And so I've got to check myself. And we always talk about accountability is, goes both ways. And for me, I'm not going to stop pushing the team. You best believe that. But I will not, focus on the negative pieces because you guys do enough of that for me by asking me why we didn't start fast. And I'm like, well, shoot, can't start fast every game. But I need to check myself at times, especially right after a game where we won. Our players, we overcame adversity in 2 games prior to this one. We played fast and met the standard that you guys and our fans would like, but then we didn't finish, and I'm focusing on that. So, I'm going to focus on continuing to push that we want to win, but we also have a standard that we play to, and I'll keep pushing that we play to the standard.
Hey, Coach. I guess kind of a little similar to that, but I guess just kind of with being able to open the season, 3 games at home, and then opening conference play on the road. I guess you talked a lot about off-season, what you saw in the locker room, and just kind of the player-driven culture is kind of what validated a lot of the preseason expectations inside the program. But I guess just kind of through that first road game, do you feel like you maybe saw anything or anything kind of clicked to maybe validate that?
You know what, I think the best part was, and Brian Griffin, who's our chief of staff, said something to me. I look at halftime of the locker room. So we go in as a coaching staff before we go make adjustments. We meet as a staff for me to kind of give our staff, I'm coaching the staff. Here's where we are. This is what we need to do. Well, by the time our coaches get in that locker room, some of the leaders and culture drivers of our team have already started the process of making the necessary adjustments. I mean, you hear players coaching players. And to me, those are the things when I always say there's little signs that maybe you guys don't understand, but those are the signs of things that when I declared that we're ready to compete, this is why. And so I'm really proud of that part of our team. And, we have some culture drivers in our program that it's almost like having coaches on the field and coaches in the locker room. And so by the time we come out to start our transition to making adjustments, it was good to hear that our team has embraced that philosophy of, hey, self-correction peer-to-peer is sometimes even more effective than coach to player.
Coach Carl McManus, Capital News Service.
Carl, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Great.
Maryland's offense leads the Big Ten in total yards, and the defense is tied for second in the nation in takeaways. Is it too early to take stock in that, or does that kind of support your statement about the team being ready to compete?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I hate being in the middle of answering it, but, I do think that, part of where we are is a reflection of what we call the formula for winning, and big plays and takeaways are huge. And so when you're leading in total offense, obviously we're creating and manufacturing big plays. And then when you are one of the top teams and taking it away, those are two of the three elements we need to win. And so I'd say they both kind of go hand in hand. And again, it's really early. We got a lot of football. I think we're a third of the way through our guaranteed games, and it's a little too early to say, hey, that's who we are, but we'll embrace it and continue to strive to continue to do those things.
Hey, Locks, how you doing?
Alex, what's up, bro?
Not too much. Obviously, if you guys win this week, 5-0 for the first time since 2001 for this program. I know you were here then. Looking at that team then, this team now, do you draw any similarities between the mindset, the culture, just the way they're playing it all? Anything you can draw a parallel between those two?
I'd say the brotherhood of it. Anybody that was around, and I see Steve Suter back there that was part of that 01 team. That 01 team's brotherhood was forged through some tough times. I mean, started out in 97 and some guys that were really close to winning. We had a couple 5 and 6 seasons before, Coach Friedgen came in and he brought a standard with him that we needed to have the win. And so that brotherhood that's forged through going through some tough times together, I see those similarities. I mean, that team was a fun team to coach. And I'm going to tell you right now, I enjoy coaching this team that we have, or this version of our football family, because of them embracing the culture of winning and what it takes to win. Not the end result of winning, but the process. I mean, we had a Monday practice yesterday. We practiced in the rain. And I can tell you that a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, there'd be a lot of bitching and moaning about, why can't we go in the indoor? We got an indoor. And Well, it was none of that. I looked around and they were just doing the work in the rain and they embracing it. And so, again, this team is fun to coach, much like that 01 team was fun to see them reap the rewards of the tough times they went through.
And then just a quick follow-up in terms of, obviously having Indiana as the focus this week. How do you make sure that the focus is on Indiana and not we could be 5-0 going into this game?
I mean, that's easy. That's part of our standard. Faceless, nameless opponents, they're the next one on there. That's all we really worry about.
Okay. I guess you were talking.
What's up? How are you?
Good. I'm good. How are you?
All right.
You were talking about the standard, and I guess not meeting at the end of Michigan State. So I mean, it's kind of two-parter, but you don't have to answer both. But
I'll answer both for you.
Oh, okay.
Make you relax a little bit.
What?
Help you relax a little bit. I'll answer both. You're good.
Okay. What did you not close out, or how did you guys not close out the game strong during Michigan State? And for your ideal version of perfect game, what does closing out the game strong look like?
Yeah. So the first one is what things were I disappointed about in terms of the finishing strong. Well, the last 2 weeks we haven't started out. We got down 14 and we found ways to overcome those deficits, and we finished winning the fourth quarter. We finished scoring touchdowns in the red area. We executed the last 3 quarters about as well as you can execute them. This time we started out fast and we had 3 red zone trips on offense where we didn't score points. You threw an interception in the red area. You missed a couple field goals. And so to me, that's what I'm talking about, the finishing and making sure that, when we have opportunities, especially in a situational game of football, that we close it out. And I didn't think we finished strong. We got out to a fast lead, and I didn't see anybody complacent on the sideline, but I just didn't feel as though there was that sense of urgency every time we went out, where when you're down 14, you're running out of time, it kind of creates that sense of urgency. So mature teams, and this team is one that I really feel is a mature team, they embrace that. We don't look at the scoreboard. We should play, whether we're down or up, we play to the standard and not to the scoreboard, and that's the part that was disappointing. What played a role in it? You know what? It's hard for me to say when I watch it on tape. As I said after the game, and I confirmed it when I got done watching the tape, is that there were just so many instances where we were a block away, or we were maybe 1 yard too deep, or we didn't see something structurally that would have allowed us to execute better. Guys out of their gaps when they should be in their gap. Those types of things were the things that really jumped out to me. I think to the touchdown that Ox scored on 4th and 1. Well, we had the same play called where we threw it to Caden Prather and we just missed the block on a perimeter. It would have been the same exact outcome. And so we were just a little off in terms of the attention to the detail of how to do things technically. And to me, those are things that are correctable, and we'll work to get them corrected this week.
Defense has only given up 12 points a game, but has also allowed 330 yards per game.
You've been negative, man. There we go.
Well, I think something good at first.
Yeah.
I mean, the bend but don't break nature of the defense, is that something you're comfortable with?
No, I'm not. I don't want to give up no yards, and that's why when I leave the field and y'all put these microphones in front of me before I can even digest it, it's like every first down seemed like it was 5 or 6 yards. It was from the 20 to the 20. The ball I just never felt like we were stopping them. But then I look up and they score 9 points. And the ultimate goal is to hold them out of the end zone. But the standard is to stop the run. And play good third down defense. And we didn't accomplish those things to the standard that we want to have them accomplish that and the goals we set for games. And so that to me is where it's just frustrating, because as I walk off the field, I don't think about the 9 points we gave up. I think of, we couldn't stop the run. We didn't get off the field off a third down, because I know I'm going to get these questions, and it just puts me in that frame. And I'm going to be positive. I'm not going to let y'all get me down this rabbit hole of being a negative coach. And I feel like I'm starting down there. So we're doing a really good job on defense of keeping people out of the end zone. Are there things we need to be better at? No doubt about it. And our defensive staff will work hard to get it done.
Coach.
What's up, Taylor?
What's going on?
What's going on with you, man?
Not much. In
How's
the preseason,
the family? Everything good?
Everything good, yeah.
All right.
In the preseason, you mentioned you were going to move Tariq still from the slot to the outside, and then you were looking for someone to step up in that slot. Just what have you seen from Glendon Miller in that role so far this year, and what's he meant to this defense?
I am so proud of Glenn Miller, because I'm going to tell you, man, Glenn has been a pain in my butt for 3 years in terms of he loves football. But it's just all the other things in life. And you know what? He's matured. And this program, he is a poster child for what I hope this program can become for players, because, you know what? He's a great kid. He's smart. He's tough. We had to work on the reliable part, because sometimes he didn't always do or where he was supposed to be. And I'm going to just tell you right now, he's one of our leaders. He's a guy that, even though he's not on my leadership group, when I think of Glenn Miller, I think of tough, hard-nosed, throwback type of Turk football players. And to see the success he's having, I'm not surprised, because every time he's played, when he's been given the opportunity or when he's earned the opportunity, he makes plays. Now, does he do some crazy things like when the field goal is blocked and you're supposed to get away from it, and does he run toward the ball a little bit? That's Glenn, and we're working on removing those type of decisions from out of his thing. But nobody has grown more in this program than Glenn Miller has, and really happy for him, because he's a great football player. He's a guy that has stepped in big and can play corner, can play nickel, can play safety, loves the game, man. If he could just play football every day and not go to class and party and do all the things that they like to do in college, he's a throwback football player. I did all this because I saw Glenn back there, and I'm motivating him. I saw him walk in.
Hey, Coach, how's it going?
What's up?
So what are your thoughts on Jack Howes so far this season? How have you seen him progress as a kicker?
Jack is Jack is on par, what I think, of what Chad Ryland can be. I know that a lot of people are down on the ones he's missed, but, going into the week, he's dealing with a little bit of an injury. And I was torn between whether to kick him, not kick him. He came to me and said, "Coach, I'm good." He said, "It may not look pretty, but I'll do it." And he's worked through kind of the issues he's had. We made a 48-yarder, and I thought, okay, he's back. But then I think because of the distance of it is why you didn't see him think much about, dealing with some of the lower leg extremity stuff he's dealt with last week. And so I think on some of the shorter kicks, maybe he didn't come through because he bangs the ball. When his foot makes contact, he's got a big leg. And I think in an effort to kind of compensate for what he's been dealing with his lower body stuff, it got into his head a little bit. Well, I think he'll be healthy this week. We kind of shut him down early to let things kind of calm down. But I think he's a really good kicker for us. And what you saw last week isn't who he was, but the reason it was dealing with a little bit of an injury.
And you mentioned Chad, attempting 6 field goals and more than 50 yards last year. Do you feel you're going to get to that level of comfortability with Jack?
I'm already there with him. I kicked a 48-yarder knowing that he wasn't 100% going into it, and he answered the call. Yep. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Matt. Good afternoon. Appreciate everybody being here. Like always, talk a little bit about the weekend and then look forward to this week's game, certainly. And just going back to Saturday, as I said, it was a tough loss, very disappointing loss for everybody involved. And one thing we always talk about, it's always a team loss. Anytime you come off the field without a victory, that's certainly the case. And everybody's got ownership, coaches, players, everybody's got ownership, and it's always been that way, always will be. Circle back and just touch on one thing. I was asked after the game, did I have any concerns? And maybe I missed the obviousness of that question. But anytime you lose a game, you're concerned about everything. And first and foremost, it's your players. That's the first thought I always have after ball game or during any game, and that's certainly the biggest thing. Losing is tough. It's always been tough. It always will be tough. There's nothing fun about it, nothing enjoyable, certainly. And you think about our players, but it's true at every level. This is what they're invested in. This is what they're trying to do well. And come up short is always disappointing. Certainly the case there, and same thing with our staff. But the one thing I've said consistently, and I'll continue to say, we got a quality group of people, and we'll keep pushing forward. Again, it is challenging, and the reason is everybody's invested. And I know full well the players' investment over the last 9 months. Certainly know the coach's investment, and then there's an emotional aspect too. Anytime you come up short, and it's just not much fun. Never has been, never will be. And I guess if you learn anything in your time, if you're paying attention, it's basically gets back to just getting back to work. And two things: you have to stay together as a group, stay together as a team, and then work to push forward. And I don't think it changes much off that. It's a lot easier to talk about that than actually do it, and it's all about the doing that's going to bring on better results. So that's really kind of where we're at right now. And coached at every level, high school, pro, collegiately. It doesn't change. Losing's losing. It's not much fun. And the key thing for us right now is to work on solutions, trying to get better. That being said, okay, we're moving forward now to Michigan State this weekend. Second Big Ten game, first one at home, obviously. So, captains, same 4 guys there. You got Joe Evans, Jay Higgins on the defense, and then Luke Lachey, Cade McNamara offensively. Caleb will not be out there. Caleb Johnson, J.S. Patterson, they'll still be out another week at least. Michigan State comes to town. They're 2-2 football team right now, 0-1 with Big Ten record. And they look a lot like what you'd expect from Michigan State. They're big, they're physical, got good athletic ability, and certainly got talent at every position. So as we look at them, a lot of parallels from what we saw a couple years ago. There's been a leadership change there, obviously, but I think the other beyond that, the coordinators are all the same. So systematically, don't expect them to change a lot, and that's what we'll try to get ready for right now. And obviously, work to get our first Big Ten win. I think both teams are certainly looking the same way. way in that direction. Kid captain is Wyatt Reynolds, who's a 9-year-old from Cedar Rapids. He's had basically health challenges since birth, had a heart transplant at 6 months, if you can imagine that. And he's a healthy 9-year-old right now. I know he's really eager. At least I've been told he's eager to be on the field, have a chance to wave up to the hospital. And we're certainly looking forward to having him with us on Saturday. And then, as Matt mentioned, really special weekend having Robert Gallery back and to see him honored. Very prestigious to be obviously selected to the National Football Foundation Hall of Fame. That's a big thing. And on top of that, to go into the Kinnick Stadium Ring of Honor, certainly just two great salutes to him, and very, very well deserved. He's one of the finest players I've ever been around, so it'll be great to have him back with us on the sideline. Expect a great crowd. It should be a great environment. It's our job right now to try to get ready here for the kickoff and see what we can do on Saturday, and I'll throw it out for questions.
The offense is ranked 100th or worse in a lot of key statistics. What realistically can you do in season to kind of right this ship?
Just try to get better in every phase. I mean, there's really no magic answers, and see what we can do to just improve in each and every phase.
When you evaluate the offense, what's kind of been what are the areas that you're looking at specifically in the passing game that is just not measuring up to what you want or what players want either?
I would still attribute part of that an obvious answer, and I've said this for a while. Our starting quarterback got injured about 5-6 weeks ago. So for him to work back, he's missed a lot of time. He missed a lot of time last year. And then to work with this team, this group, everything's connected. So the more we practice, the more we do better in practice, have better execution. Hopefully it'll show on the game field.
The wide receivers have been targeted 35 times over 4 games, 14 catches. What is it about the group that's not getting involved as much as just ball goes where it goes?
Yeah, I think part of that is the ball does go where it goes, and we've had 2 pretty good tight ends. Obviously, we're down 1 there, so that changes. And as a staff, that's something we're doing weekly, is just trying to figure out what's the best way we can do to help improve production offensively, and getting the receivers involved probably makes some sense here as we move forward.
Can you do that conscientious? I mean, do you go into a game saying, "Hey, we got to get our receivers more involved"?
It's more dictated personnel group. Who you have available. We were probably a little bit more 3 wide last week than prior. But at some point we still got to block, we got to protect, and then we got to throw and get open. Obviously, so it's just it's just keep working here.
Kirk, there were times you had a transfer quarterback, transfer tight end, and 2 transfer wide receivers out there on the field. Does that make it more challenging, maybe with communication and knowing that everybody's where they need to be?
Yes and no. I don't know necessarily in general terms, not necessarily, but I think if you look back again, Cade's work was limited. Obviously been limited the last 5-6 weeks here. It was limited in the spring. And then, Seth didn't work at all in the spring. So we've had a lot of moving parts. Eric is very limited in the spring as well. So in a perfect world, we would have had, whatever it's been now, 8-9 weeks here of cohesive work every day out there in the field. Just haven't had that. We'll keep working. But that, it's not the only area we got to get better at. We got to get better at everything we're doing.
Regarding the offensive line, Coach Barnett has been around for 3 years now. Talked to Logan and Nick about him a little bit. They continue to add votes of confidence for him, and you did that in the preseason. What does he do well, and where does that confidence come from for Coach Barnett?
Confidence from me or from the players?
Both.
From the players, it's earned. You earn everything from your players, and it's just the way he is. It's a person he is, and the kind of coach he is. He's a tremendous football coach and outstanding human being. The players recognize that. I think they can tell. It's been a tough task. We've had our challenges up front. That's he walked into a very challenging situation. I think he's done a great job pushing it forward, and we'll just keep working.
What were your impressions on the O-line from watching the film on Saturday?
There wasn't a lot that looked good Saturday, quite frankly, any area, maybe outside of Torrey's punting. That's if you had to find a highlight, that's probably it, and that's it's an important part about winning, but if that's all you got, then that's not going to be good enough. So there really wasn't, none of us performed well enough, coaches or players, well enough to be competitive and be successful.
How do you help your wide receivers become confident in the game plan if they're not really a part of it or they're not contributing?
It's not that they're not part of it. The ball hasn't gone there for whatever reasons, but they're certainly critical. Just everybody is. All 11 people are critical out there. So we'll have to find a better way maybe to spread the ball a little bit And again, Luke being out, and he's going to be out, so that's part of the deal. We'll just keep working and keep chipping away at it.
You just mentioned that the coaches.
Okay, let me come back there. I'm sorry.
From an injury standpoint, aside from kind of the existing ones with Luke, Caleb, Jazz, Kate mentioned that hand didn't seem to be too much of a problem. Did you get out Penn State mostly unscathed?
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, we have a couple guys that are a little bit limited right now, but hopefully Saturday we'll have be at full strength other than the people you mentioned.
You just mentioned that the coaches had some areas of improvement in that Penn State game. What were some of the areas that they could improve on?
When we get judged on performance, basically, and how the players perform, that's our job to get them ready. And that, clearly Saturday we were not competitive, compared to Penn State. I mean, it was just, a thorough beating, quite frankly, and that's what it was. So, we all got to do better. There's no magical, one area. It's just everybody's got to do a little bit better, a little bit more.
All the guys brought up the 24-hour rule, win or lose, and that's just part of this. But how important is it in your experience having that just one day to kind of sit in the stink, so to speak, and then get out after a game like Saturday?
Yeah, it's really important, but it's a lot easier. Like a lot of things, it's a lot easier to say it than do it. And losses tend to linger, and that was we took one. So you got to move past it, because what you can't do is let it impede what's going to happen this week. And clearly we need improvement in every area right now. We just all got to do a little bit better job, and that's we've been in that situation before. It's never fun. It's not easy to put it behind you. It's easier said than done. But that at some point you got to do that, so you aren't burning time on something that's already happened and wasting an opportunity maybe to get ready for this one.
When you talk about not seeing a lot encouraging from the O-line on Saturday, what do you feel like needs to change moving forward?
It's not any general area. It's just, they played better than we did. It's credit to them. We knew they were a good football team, and they played an outstanding game, so credit to them. It's not one specific thing. It's just, like I said, just pretty much across the board. We just didn't compete at the level we'd need to. We got a good taste of what it looks like, and now we got to try to get on the train and, get to that level.
You mentioned the running backs. You said they're out a week. Does that mean they'll be back for Purdue most likely, or is?
I don't know. We'll take it week to week, as I said a couple weeks ago. I don't think we'll know. So, if they were out for the season, I'd let you know that. But that's not the case. So hopefully sooner than later.
One better than the other.
It really doesn't matter. It's, we'll take whoever's ready to go. We'll take them when they get back.
Actually, Scott's question here. Like Saturday, Eric was almost targeted 7 times. Wide receivers combined 4. Is there an imbalance in the passing play calling and bias in favor of the tight ends, or is Cade not seeing the wideouts, or just more comfortable because he knows Eric better?
Yeah, I think there's always a little bit of that with every quarterback. They always have somebody they feel a little bit more comfortable with, and they obviously have played together. So I don't know if that's the entire story. That's probably part of the story. And, we're going to continue to work to try to get the ball a little bit to everyone. But, basically you want to get it to where it's going to help you move the ball and score points.
What has Jay Higgins done so well this season?
He plays so hard. He prepares extremely hard. He plays extremely hard. He's totally invested, and I think he's done a great job being a leader on top of it, and that's something we were very cognizant of. You lose a guy like Jack Campbell, and you lose Seth Benson right there in the middle of the defense, and that's why going after Nick was so important. We just felt like he was a older guy that embodied some of those characteristics that maybe Seth and Jack had. So both those guys I think are playing well, and Jay's been here, so he knows the system. He really has been invested in it, and just really admire the effort he plays with.
Along those lines, with whether it's Jay, whether it's Jack before that, Welch, Jewell, probably missing a few down the line here. You had a strong track record at middle linebacker. What is it that has led to that consistent success in that position?
Selection's not the right word, but it just for us to be good defensively, that's just a critical position. Probably most teams are that way, but the way we're wired, if you go back historically, the guys up the middle are really a big part of what we do. So, if you have 2 inside linebackers or 2 safeties that can't tackle or won't tackle, it's not going to work too well. But I think, if you look over the long haul, that's kind of been a commonality, and so it takes the right kind of guy to be there. And all the guys we've had have been very different. You don't have many. Jack Campbell's a really unusual body type and all that, and he's an unusual person. But it's kind of like football. It's kind of like life. There's all kinds of shapes and sizes, all kinds of personalities. But the bottom line is, can that player play effectively at that position? And fortunately, to your point, we've been really lucky. We've had a lot of good ones at that spot.
Players talking about the speech that Kate McNamara gave after the game and really fired up the team. Is that something that can kind of serve as a turning point in a season, just in your experience?
I think it's positive. Hopefully, you're always turning points are, we'll know those at the end of the year, go back and look. But it's a positive, certainly, and that's what you hope. Everybody's thinking, everybody's feeling, and the words that he spoke were pretty much what I jotted down in terms of what I wanted to share with the team too. So I think we're all on the same page. I think we all know what we need to be doing and what we want to be doing. Now the trick is, can we go out and do it better week by week here?
What were those words you jotted down and wanted to say?
Basically just kind of why I started out here, just at the start of the press conference. You stay together and you work for it, and that's really what it goes. And then, I think he also added, nobody wants to remember this feeling, because you don't want to experience it again. And that's not to minimize anybody outside the the team framework of the team, but just again, I'll just go back. It's painful to lose. It's really painful, and the reason is these guys invest so much. It's just kind of the same thing I talk about when a player's injured and is going to miss time. This is what players work for. That's what they live for, is that opportunity to go out and compete. And so if you can't do it, that's disappointing. And then certainly if you come up short, that's not much fun either. And I know the fans aren't happy. I know that everybody's not happy. Believe me, the players are less happy and the coaches are less happy, because this is what we do. We live it.
You're playing a team this week that had a sudden coaching change. You'll play another one in a few weeks. Is there anything to be drawn from this that maybe people in your profession are just as have feet of clay as much as anybody else?
Yeah, so not to make light of that, but I don't even know who it is in front of us that you just referenced. Okay, I got you. Okay, I did know about those two. I'm sorry. And I think, first of all, the lesson learned is don't try to anticipate how that team's going to play, because Northwestern's a great example. I think everybody had them dead and buried, and they didn't get that memo for sure. So, yeah, it's a world we live in, and it started a while ago. I guess probably the one that was most prominent in my mind was USC making the change when they did last year, 2 years ago, whenever that would have been. But it's, the more the world changes, I think more, we're moving in that direction. We're becoming a little bit more like the NFL.
This year, you hit the portal. You got a new quarterback, got some wide receivers, tight end, and the constant kind of over the last few years is the scheme and the play caller. Has there been any discussion about altering either of those, maybe making a change at play caller to change things up for different results? Or
that's not part of the plan. But every week we've done it for 24 plus years. After every game, you go back and look at what you did. What could you do better? Whether it's play calling, what our thoughts going into the game were, those types of things, how the opponent match us. And, you've been doing that for 24, 25 years, offensively, defensively, special teams. That's just part of what we do on Sundays. And then, you shift over to the next opponent. So, we're just going to try to do better. There's really no simple answers or easy remedies. It's just a matter of execution, playing better, and trying to do what our players are capable of doing a little bit better.
This team has been to 3 BCS Bowls or New Year's Day Bowls.
Sure, Michigan State. Talk about
okay.
Iowa.
Yeah. 02, 09, and 15. And in each of those instances, within 2 years prior, the team was really not performing at a really high level execution-wise. So you've been through improvements before. You said that there isn't really much in the way of like a magic tool or anything, but how do you get that level of execution and performance from back up to the point where it's one of the best in the Big Ten?
Again, all I can do is speak to my experiences. That's really all I know. And then my experiences are based on things I've observed. I do try to pay attention. When it comes to football stuff, there's a lot of stuff I couldn't give you any opinion on or commentary, but so yeah, the way I choose to move forward, the way I choose to make my decisions is based on what I've witnessed other people do or not do. And going back to the concept of changing coaches, I'd love to do a study on that, how well that works out. I'm thinking about a situation in the NFL probably about 40 years ago where they went from the stern coach to the players' coach.
It is Michigan State